Hello everyone, welcome to Yosemite Valley and welcome to Hump Day. It's Wednesday again, so that means there is a new Planet Zoo episode today with an animal that is not in the game, I want to say yet, but we have all no idea if it's in the game at some point in the future. So what I'm doing today is I am building a habitat with the hope in mind that this animal could potentially be added in the future. I'm just hoping, you know. And since I had a good track record in Planet Coaster of things that I built prior to updates that were then actually added. So let's just try this again. And I'm building a habitat for a Rockhopper penguin today. So some of you guys were mentioning this type of penguin lately in the comments when we were talking about which kind of additions could be done for the zoo. And I think penguin was amongst the most named things in the comment section. So this is why I obviously go with it. Also, sorry for my little nosy voice. The pollen allergy now finally hit completely, and there is no freaking way I can avoid it. I'm also not feeling super well. Don't worry, it's not that other thing. It's really pollen allergy. I know it by heart because I have it every single year, and it's it's astonishing how much continuation or how much it's kind of a routine. You cannot avoid it. I tried every medic or medicine available. Nothing really helps me, so the only thing I can do is I can live through it. I can try to drink as much as possible and sleep as much as possible, but there will always be a little bit of a struggle with my see that's what I meant with my voice. I need to kind of talk around it, which is quite unfortunate, but I hope you guys will survive it for the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I have to say it's nothing short term. I always have to work through it a couple of weeks until it's early summer, so let's say May, June. That's where it's getting better, at least with my voice. However, I think it's not too bad, especially not with my new microphone, which hopefully filters a lot of it. The old one wasn't as nice to me when it comes to these kind of things. The new one is a lot more forgiving, so to say. But yeah, so this build you see in the background, first of all, it's not sped up as much as possible because it didn't take that long. I had a pretty much quite a good plan in mind, and usually I try to implement as much as possible of the different iterations in my time-lapse, so you can see really what my process was. But this build is pretty straightforward, mainly because I did some testing in advance, and I also had a pretty clear plan in mind. And so this makes the whole building process a lot quicker. Now, obviously, it's not too crazy because the whole habitat is not too big. So I will definitely try to keep it as short as possible. Sometimes, you know, I don't know if there will be another video today. Hopefully there will be City Skylines. I had some major issues with City Skylines lately, so that's also why my second episode is delayed. In case it is online, you will have seen that episode already. I really do hope so. If you haven't checked out my City Skylines series yet, please make sure you do, because I find this very interesting. So for those of you who don't know what I'm doing, I'm building a modern art island in the center of a little riverbed. So it's almost like the island in Paris where you will find Notre Dame, but just that we don't have this cathedral on there. We do have a wonderful museum of modern art on this island. So the whole island is meant to be a museum island, which I think is a very interesting approach, and it's not that big of a scale, so I can really say that I'm able to do this. Anyhow, I also wanted to talk about this habitat in particular. I had some ideas in mind how to do it, and there are a few things that I like, especially about these Rockhopper penguin habitats in real life zoos. Sometimes there are also different species or different types of penguins, but I have to say the approach on the habitats is mostly very similar. So you do have a very small habitat in comparison to others, and they are most likely very much layered with different steps and different elevations in there, but mostly they're using a lot of rocks to make this really like a big old cluster of rocks where the group of penguins would live on. So this is what I wanted to do here as well. I wanted to get in with some little water elements that they can swim in and just take a bath, but at the same time you can see them diving around in the front. So that's why I have some very huge windows mounted to the very border of the pathway, so that people can actually see them underwater. And then we have this little elevated pathway on the left hand side, which acts a little bit like a little stage where you can go up and then have a better look into the actual habitat. At the end of this episode, you will see that I'm using quite a lot of foliage to block a few of the views, because I don't want to make it too open. I still want to give the penguins a lot of privacy if possible. So most likely these habitats are super open. I never heard that these animals seem to be very stressed. I mean, they live in super large groups, and if they are not annoyed by people, they are potentially annoyed by their family members or their friends. So I don't know. But yeah, I don't want my animals to be super stressed, and that's why I was also considering some types of privacy elements in here. But yeah, the one and I think most interesting and also biggest challenge for me is obviously, since we do not have any type of animal in the game that would be a little hint for me to build this habitat. Everything about the traversable area and the overall space of this habitat is pretty much only guessing. So at the end we have like 550 square meters of size. I think it was something like 120 square meters of water volume, which might be a bit too less. I'm not really sure, but in general these things are very small in real life as well. And I was going now for a real life one, because as long as this habitat only is cosmetic anyways, I thought there was no big need of, making it too big in terms of fulfilling the game needs, which are not available because the game does not have penguins. You know what I mean? Okay, it's confusing, I know, but yeah. And I also had a different approach on building this. You have seen me building a lot with the different layers of plaster there, and that was mainly because I wanted to have some ideas where the elevation goes. And I would guess that this is exactly, well, I would not guess, I have done my research, and this is exactly how real life zoos also do it. They build a generic structure, most likely out of concrete, but we use the plaster pieces most likely as concrete anyways. And they build these different layers and stages and different height levels. And what they do then, they use rocks, basically, exactly the way I do it over here, to layer it and make it look more realistic. Because honestly, it would be way more expensive if you would need that many rocks to, create these different steps and elevation steps, because then you would need to do it with all these rocks. And what zoos do, they actually purchase these specific rocks. Some of those rocks are local, but they actually do purchase also some bigger rocks from the environment where the animals live, and you want to only use them on the surface. You don't want to spend your money on these expensive, or let's say medium expensive. I don't know how expensive they are, actually, I didn't look into that, but you don't want to spend it into these heavy boulders if you can only do this with concrete as well. So that's why they do layer it this way as well, and then later on they build different types of rock formations on top of it. Some of those rock formations are actually also artificial, so they are kind of foam or whatever, these kind of hard foam pieces. Mostly these things that the animals won't even walk on, they are only cosmetic. So for the build that I have, for example, the rock that is at the very front dividing the viewer stage and the water is most likely would be a artificial one with these kind of hard foam things, because that's what you would definitely do in real life as well. Mostly they do it to save money. It's that simple, because again, a huge actual rock does cost a lot more than these artificial made up rock formations that you could also do at home with, like, I don't know, with your little art kind of art stuff you have at home and can build this yourself. But you can see that I'm also going to build something for the backstage, which I found very important over here. Not only actually working backstage with the as you can see, with these wonderfully fitting roof pieces, whatever reason, but they just were blending exactly with these logos of the stuff houses, and I've never seen that before. But yeah, you can see also that I used a lot of these rocks, and honestly I tested this after the episode with the red panda, because I thought size-wise, that might be the animal that fit the most to it. I'm not even sure if that makes sense, but the red panda could actually traverse most of the areas in here, and so I was confident to say that this could also be working for penguins. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? Okay, it's just me guessing and trying to make it look good. I have to say I am super happy with the outcome in terms of how it looks. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I haven't tackled anything like that in before, and so it made obvious again, and it made me aware again of how much I miss these types of animals in the game that would go into a habitat like that. I absolutely miss it. It's something that really comes to my mind now, that I would have loved to do this so much more often, but yeah, it's just not happening. It's just not happening because as long as we don't have it, it doesn't really make sense. Yeah, what I wanted to do as well, I found it a bit too boring with all the boulders in there, and maybe also a bit too desaturated, and so I wanted to have a bit of greenery in here, just a slightly little bit, to make sure that also this is in some planters. I'm not even sure how exactly the penguins would work with these things, and if they would have an issue with plants actually in there. I mean, they eat fish, they don't eat the plants, right? So maybe they just would ignore them, I don't know. But yeah, the rest is now only about, as always, covering up some of the areas. And to be honest, this is made just very dirty and very rushed. I just wanted to give it a bit of context, because I know that this area will be reshaped quite a few times, because when the bridge is going to be entered into this area or inserted, I have no freaking idea how exactly I do it, and that's why at the moment I'm just doing this for the context, and not really, this is not meant to be the final result. Maybe some of it will be kept, but I guess most of it won't. Yeah, I also tried my best with some moss pieces here and there, but I figured it doesn't look good. But yeah, since I figured it looks better to have a really closed up backstage area, I just made some little details here to make it a bit more believable and just a bit more finished. But again, this is also not the final design. There is also a lot of stuff we need to tweak. The interior looks bad, but I'm not going to go into the interior. I will also do some interiors, but not of that one. And I will do the interior where the penguins are actually living, or potentially the penguins, who knows. But yeah, here's the question of the day, since we are at the end of this episode. If we won't get any penguins in the future, what kind of animal could we potentially put in here? Do you have any idea? I have no idea, to be honest, which kind of animal could go in here. However, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I certainly did, because it was a different experience. And yeah, I hope we see each other again in another episode, maybe in City Skylines today, or in another episode of Planet Zoo in the upcoming days. Until then, have a good time, stay safe, and goodbye. Hello everyone, here's a little real-time part. Yeah, I actually didn't plan to do this, but since I did some testing with this wonderful habitat over here, I just wanted to let you know what I did. So actually for you, it might just look pretty much the same, but oh god, it has changed so dramatically. In terms of how the overall shape is looking, you can see there are some animals in here I put in as testing. So I had the pygmy hippo, and I'm gonna show you now. Look at that. I mean, look at where it can all traverse. I thought that would be a good idea to see, okay, if it can access the water and it can go in and out the water. The only thing that didn't work is this pond over here, but I think the pygmy hippo is maybe also not the best one. So I also took the peafowl, because they can jump pretty high and pretty nicely, and so I wanted to see how it all works with the planters and if they can escape. It turns out they seem to be fine. And yeah, and I actually also had to change some of the things around here with the viewing stage, because as you can see, I needed to build a little bit more rock down here to make them really go down this road to access the water pipe down here, which still I'm not a big fan of, but it's hidden away quite nicely. So you can actually see that our friend has a nice traversable area. Okay, after that I thought, okay, let's put in also a flamingo, because flamingos can access the water and they can jump pretty high and fly for a moment. However, they seem to be a bit less flyable, or less likely to fly than the peafowl, because you can see they are not going into the into basically the a planter area over here, but they can access at least the stone in the water, which I found very interesting that this works, but unfortunately they cannot go up this hill. And a last test I did was with the art walk. You might ask why, but I thought, okay, this dude can also go into water and is not likely to jump. So I covered nearly every possible animal that I thought would fit size-wise and also in terms of what it can access and whatnot. So yeah, in the end, if I would overlap them all into one overlay, you could see that most of the habitat is accessible. The only downside is, I'm going to show you, is that obviously the available terrain for all of them is pretty small, but we are not that far away, so it depends a little bit on the fact how much space a future animal would require. I think for the moment my idea was to keep the flamingos in, because they are pretty happy with overall size and stuff. I mean, yeah, they don't have that much water, they don't much have that land area, but we are here in an area that is Sandbox, so I would go with them if you guys think that's a good idea. But yeah. You can see, by the way, sorry for the overlay, I'm using the depth of field effects in here, and so that's why the UI is a little bit destroyed right now, but for the showcase I like this more, so it's just looking so much cooler now. With the look at the depth of field, look at that, it's looking so good. Big fan of this. Let me just take a screenshot. Even the screenshot tool is kind of affected by it because it's an overlay. But yeah, so this is how it is. Yeah, as I said, I think I will keep the flamingos in, because I feel like the flamingos would be a great idea to have, as long as we don't have other animals that could go in here. And again, I would love to see the stone hopper penguins in here. I think that could be a great habitat. Size-wise, yeah, maybe I have to open it up. Like, there is some space given to the right-hand side, so it's always possible this area is left open. So maybe I could, increase the size of the habitat to this hand side. It might make even sense to go all the way until over here, because that makes then for a nice little connection, and then we can hide this entrance to the backstage area even more, and I could even fill in some more backstage buildings if needed in there. But yeah, so that's it, a little retime part. I really hope you enjoyed this edition, which was not planned, but I thought it was valuable and important. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you like about this habitat and what you don't, and if you have any further suggestions what could go in here, in comparison to what I already did over here, and in contrast to these animals. Let's just look what the animals do. God, this thing is floating now, right? Let me just change this, because that looks stupid. Can I have this here? Yeah, that looks a lot better. Now the bedding is not floating. Well, it's floating a little bit, but you cannot see that much. It's not that as dramatic. But I just wanted to check how good the movement is of the animals on the stones, and I feel like it looks pretty solid. Looks pretty good. I even have the feeling they improved it a little bit, because honestly, the accessibility of these areas was a bit better than I remembered it to be with the stones. So, for example, this corner over here is very narrow, if you ask me, but they are still able to move, which I really like. And this dude looks so funny. Oh, hello. Hello. But yeah, you can see it's looking fantastic. Look at that. They're moving very nicely on here. I'm always blown away by how cool that is. Like, if you look close, and with all the given flaws that we do know about, they achieved something very, very great. And if you see how they move over here, it is looking fantastic. I mean, look at that. They touched it nearly perfect. God, look at they did definitely improve that, didn't they? Oh my lord, this looks so good. I mean, just look at that. This is so cool. Oh god, this could also be like a nice little thumbnail. Oh god, I love it. Look at that! Look at how the flamingo is flying into the water. Whoa, thanks for that. Splash effect. Okay, what's going on this side though? Oh, I love it. I love when you can see the animal below the water and then still the rest is... Oh, that would be so cool. Can you imagine having the penguins swimming around here? Oh, that would be so amazing. The only thing I consider which could be a problem, but we could still solve it, is if they need at least 2 meters of water depth. I mean, I have no idea why that should be, but maybe the system, if there will be a system of diving in place, maybe they need at least a water depth of 2 meters. I could actually imagine that this might be a thing. But yeah, I'm still a big fan of this habitat in general. Like, it's so cool. I mean, just how? Wait, I wanted to. Sorry, this episode's getting like longer and longer just because I enjoy it so much. How can we put the? Okay, that's the best lighting we can have, right? Something like that. Okay. So, well, okay. I was trying my best, but yeah. I mean, this is kind of cool. If we have a screenshot with some animals in, that's look at. I mean, this is so cool. This looks so real. I love how you can really see the flamingos swimming in here and floating in the water. That gives you that very nice feel. I haven't had a habitat that is working that well, to be honest. And also with the different elevation steps, you can watch the animals. You can see the pygmy hippo coming up that hill. And yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Sorry for this. Sorry for that, guys. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's enough. It's enough. When it's enough, it's enough. Okay? So it's enough for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and I see you in the next one. Goodbye.